Beginners, trust me on this one. You'll be able to recreate this really beautiful style that has been trending everywhere, especially on TikTok, using this particular video. Hey guys, my name is Mirabel. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to cut this really beautiful style. And then hopefully in my next video, I'll be showing you how to sew it. If this sounds like something you're interested in, keep on watching. Please remember to like the video, subscribe to my channel, comment. So with that being said, let's get started. So on the plain piece of paper, I'm going to be drawing out a straight line, just like I always do whenever I want to draft a pattern. It's the same thing I'm going to be doing. I'll draw a straight line from the top of the paper and I'll label it the top line. This is where all my measurements will be starting from, okay? Then after that, the next thing I'm going to do is to mark my bust line measurements. And then after that, I'll mark my chest line measurements. So my chest line is 2 inches above my bust line, which is 8 inches. And then next, I will mark my under bust measurement, which is 13 inches, and my front waistline measurement, which is 16.5. So take note that the front waistline measurement is different from the back waistline measurements. My back waistline measurement is 15 inches, while my front waistline measurement is 16.5. So since we are drafting the front pattern, I'm going to be marking the front waistline measurements, which is 16.5. After that, I'm going to be marking my hip line, which is 24 inches, and the length of the dress, which is 38 inches. I don't want it to be too long, and that's why I'm using 38. I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other side of the pattern paper as well, and I will mark it drawing a straight line like this. So after you draw the straight line, just go ahead and label it respectively. So the next thing now is you're going to divide your shoulder by 2, and then you mark it on the top line and on the chest line. So from this point, go down by 1 inch, and then you connect it to the chest line, drawing a straight line like this. Then after that, I'm going to mark my neck width, which is 3 inches, and I'll connect it to the 1 inch point like this, and this will be the shoulder for this particular dress. So at this point now, I'm going to divide my bust measurement by 4, and I'll mark it on the chest line right here. Then after that, I'll divide this line that is from the shoulder all the way to the chest line. I'll divide it by 2. So when I divide it, I'll mark it there, and from this point I'll go in by ½ an inch right here. So with my French curve, I'm going to connect from the shoulder all the way to the arm, to the chest line, and with this I've drawn the armhole for this particular dress. So at this point now, I'm supposed to draw the neckline for this dress, but since it's an off shoulder, I'll be going down from the chest line. I'll go up by 1.5 inch. That's how low I want the neckline to be. You can raise it up or low depending on how you want it, and then I'll draw a straight line like this. So with this, I'll just label it as the off shoulder neckline. And so from this point, I'll mark 1.5 inch, while from the bust line, I'll mark half an inch. So all these measurements I'm taking is how I want the neckline to be. I'm just trying to recreate exactly what we have on the thumbnail. So you can mark yours differently if you want. So with this, I'll use my French curve and I'll connect it like this. And I'll just use my free hand to shaping the curve a little bit so that it will not be too sharp at the edge like this. So with this now, we have drawn the neckline for this particular dress. The next thing to do now is to mark our bust span measurements. So my bust span is 7 inches. Dividing it by 2 is 3.5. So I'm marking the 3.5 from the bust line all the way to the hip line, and I'll draw a straight line. So after drawing the straight line, the next thing to do now is I'm going to be marking my dart of 1.5 inch. So I'll be dividing it into 2, which is 0.75 on both sides. I'm going to do the same thing on the under bust area as well, and I'll draw a straight line like this. So you can use your own dart of 1 inch, especially if you are very busty, or you can use ½ an inch depending on what you want. Okay, ½ an inch on both sides. So from this point, I'll come down by 1 inch, and I'll connect it to the under bust area like this. So from the shoulder, I'm going to divide this line by 2. I got 4 inches there, so dividing it by 2, that is 2 inches. and I'll connect it to the bust line like this. So after that, on the neckline, I'm going to mark 1/2 inch on both sides. That is 1/2 inch for the left and 1/2 inch for the right side. And I'll connect it to the bust line. And with this, we have successfully drawn the shoulder darts. The next thing we are going to do is I'm going to be taking the measurement of these darts. So from here to here is 5 inches. So I'll just make sure I replace that 5 inches on the chest line, because by the time we are cutting it out, the bust measurement is going to be reduced. While on the waistline, I'll divide my waist by 4 and I'll mark it there, and I'll replace the dart that is there, which is 1.5 inch. So after marking this, I'll just connect it with a straight rule all the way to the chest line. The next step now is from the bust line, I'm going to go down by 1.5 inch. And the reason is because my front waistline is 16.5, whereas my back waistline is 15 inches. So 16.5 minus 15 inches is 1.5. So in order to make sure that the back and the front are together, that is aligned, I'm going to be removing that 1.5 from the bust line like this, connecting it to the bust point. And with this, we have drawn out the side darts. So after that, the next thing we are going to do is we are going to divide our hip by 4, and we are going to mark it right there on the hip line. And I'll use my straight rule. If you have a hip curve, please use it to connect from the waistline all the way down to the hip line like this. So if you're a very curvy person, just make sure you curve it a little bit when you are connecting, okay? So from this point now, you're going to mark from the waistline, you're going to go down by 5 inch, and you're going to connect it to the waistline like this, drawing the darts. After that, the next thing we are going to do is I'm going to measure the distance from the dart, which is here, all the way to the center front there. And what I have is 3 inches. So I'm going to mark that 3 inches right here on the hip line. While from this point, I'll go down by 1 inch. You can go down by 2 inches depending on how low you want it to start. That is the gathers to start from, okay? Then after that, I'll just connect it using my French curve from that 3 inches point through the dart, that is below the dart points, and then all the way to the 1 inch point like this. And this will be the curve where we are going to be attaching that gathers to. Then after that, I'm going to be marking these 3 inches that we marked earlier. I'm going to mark it on this point all the way to the length of the dress. I'll mark it there, and with this, I'm going to be drawing a straight line from the hip line all the way to the length of the dress. So after that, on the length of the dress, I'm going to divide my hip by 4 and I'll mark it there. And with this, I'll connect it, drawing a straight line. At this point, I actually bent it a little bit, like I slanted it a little bit, but in my next video, I'll be straightening it up. And then at this point, you can go ahead and cut it out. So when you're cutting, pay attention to the lines I followed while cutting and the darts that I removed, okay? At this point, I'm going to be closing the bust darts right here like this. So if you notice that place is a little bit slanted, we are going to be fixing that in a short while. So just go ahead and continue cutting out the darts that is there. So at this point, I'll mark it 1 to 3, and then on pattern paper 2, I'm going to place another pattern paper below it, okay? I'm just, at this point, I'm trying to straighten up the line right there. Like you can see, it's a little bit slanted. So from the waistline, I'll connect it to the chest line like this, drawing a straight line. So with this, we have a straight line so that by the time we are cutting, it's not slanted, it's straight. So with this, we are done with the drafting of the front pattern, and this is what it looks like. So for the back, this is what we have. At this point, I've gone ahead to label out my chest line measurements. That is, I marked out my chest line measurements, and I also marked out my back waistline measurements. Remember, I say my back waistline is 15 inches, so I marked it there. And I marked my hip line measurement, which is 24, and the length of the dress is still 38 inches. So from the top of the paper, I'm going to divide my shoulder by 2 and I'll mark it there. I'll also mark it on the chest line. I'll go down by 1 inch from this point and I'll connect it to the chest line. So from here, I'm going to mark 3 inches, which is my neck width. Exactly what we did for the front is the same thing we are doing for the back at this point. So now, after that, on the chest line, I'll divide my bust by 4 and I'll mark it there. And then right here, I'll take the midpoint, which is 3.5 right there. And I'll connect from the midpoint all the way down to the chest line like this. Now, for the neckline of the back, I'm going to go up just like I did for the front. I'm going to go up by 1.5 inch and I'll connect it drawing a straight line like this. And then after that, on the waistline, I'll divide my waist by 4 and I'll mark it at that waistline and I'll connect it to the chest line. While on the hip line, I'll divide my hip by 4, I'll mark it there and I'll connect it to the waistline. So if you remember, curve it a little bit. Don't use a straight rule if you have a hip curve, okay? Just curve it a little bit. And then at this point, using the front pattern paper, that is the side seam, I'm going to trace out that 1 inch point that's below the waistline. And then while here, I'll be marking the 3 inches points that we marked for the front, just like we did for the front. I'll mark the 3 inches also for the back. And I'll be connecting it using the front curve. I'll connect it from the hip line all the way to the waistline. That is 1 inch below the waistline. So at this point, I'll just go ahead and straighten up the line. That is, I'll mark it straight all the way to the length of the dress. So after this, just go ahead and cut it out. And that's basically all for the back. So with this now, you can place it on the pattern paper and you're going to cut. So I'll be showing you how to cut it. What you have to do is you're going to place it on the pattern on the fabric and you're going to cut. So you're going to be adding 1/2 inch all around like this. But on the center front, you're going to cut it on fold. So if you don't want to cut it on fold, you can add 1/2 inch sewing allowance at the center front. But at the end of the day, you will still join it. For the side fronts, I added 1/2 inch all around, but for the side seam, I added 1 inch, and for the armhole, I did not add any allowance. So in my next video, I'm going to be showing you how to sew this particular dress, and you're going to see the outcome in my next video. So thank you so much for watching. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, leave a comment, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.